it's been quite a NATO-focused General Assembly with all sorts of speeches and commentaries around the edges about directly. So President Zelensky of Ukraine said the following: no, not international law, not cooperation, but weapons decide who to survive. And he said that even being part of the long-standing military alliance doesn't automatically mean you are safe. So is that a direct shot across NATO's bow?
No, I don't think so. And of course, he's right on the weapons, because he needs the weapons. The good news is that the US, since mid-July, is supplying the weapons again, paid for by allies. The president decided to open the floodgates again, both lethal and non-lethal weapons into Ukraine, which is extremely important for the Ukrainians. And it helps them to stay strong in the fight. And they're exceptionally successful.
And this business about you all have to paying for American weapons, which used to go from their budget, how stressful is that for NATO's budget and various governments' budgets?
Well, of course, they have to make sure that the money is there. But I think it is logical. Europe is stepping up. Europe was stepping up at the NATO summit with the 5% spending commitment. Now Europe is stepping up, saying, hey, listen, it's only logical that we pay for these weapons, but it is important that the US is supplying them, because otherwise Ukraine could not survive. These are crucial deliveries.
In your conversations about a potential, day after, are there any developments in terms of security guarantees for Ukraine, including from the United States?
Well, let's first of all pray and hope that the day after is there as soon as possible. Right. And I know that President Trump is working day and night to achieve that moment and to get there. The Europeans, under the leadership of the French and the British, came together organizing these security guarantees. The US has now said we want to get involved. So that debate is now taking place. But of course, all of this can only be implemented post a long-term ceasefire or a full peace deal.
So you say the president is working day and night on it. Even at the podium, he admitted that he thought that it would be one of the more easy conflicts to solve because of his relationship with Vladimir Putin. And he's basically announced to the world and to Putin that it's definitely not going as he wished, and that Putin is, stringing him along, essentially. What is the hope, do you think, for Putin to understand that it's time to agree to a ceasefire, to negotiate an end?
Well, I think President Trump hit it exactly as he should have by mentioning the paper tiger. And then the Russians coming back yesterday, the whole day, saying, no, we're not a paper tiger. We are a bear. Yeah. Hey, when you see a bear, you know you see a bear.
Right, but that's an offensive posture.
Yeah, but it means that Russia is insecure and that President Trump was able to hit a nerve, probably at the highest echelons of the Kremlin.
Okay.
And why is this? Because if I was a student of history, as I am, and Putin is also a student of history, and he loves his country and is proud of that history, I would not be in a good place. He's lost 1 million people now, or seriously wounded in this war. He is now losing in 1 month what the Soviets lost in 10 years in Afghanistan, only in 1 month. So this is what's happening at the moment, and he is not making the progress he wants. He has these long lines waiting for the gasoline stations to fill up the cars with gasoline because the Ukrainians are successful in hitting the oil refineries in Russia. So he is not in a good place, and I think President Trump feels that, and he's putting pressure on Putin. Come to the table.
Just a quick thing, because he's not in a good place, but you remember in the Oval Office, Trump had told Ukraine that you're not in a good place, you have no cards. Now he's saying that actually, I think with NATO help, that you can win back all your territory. How did you analyze what that meant? Is the aim now to help Zelensky and Ukraine enough to win back things, even like Crimea, the Donbass?
Well, I think what we have here is a president really trying to get Putin to the table, and so far Putin has not played ball. Yep. And he wants him to play ball and come there and make compromises and end this terrible war. And there will also be discussions on very sensitive issues, including territory, and both President Trump, myself, we all agree it's up to President Zelensky to discuss territory and make the necessary deals when that moment comes. But at the moment, of course, the problem is that Putin is not there, and therefore the 5% spending commitment, this weapons delivery from the US into Ukraine paid for by allies, but also the discussion now between the EU and the US on more sanctions on Russia is extremely helpful to put that pressure on Putin and get him there.
Do you think that'll happen? Because President Trump has said that that's available, but he keeps having these rolling deadlines. Do you think finally he will put those sanctions on?
He already did. We have seen what
Well,
he
no,
did.
not the big ones that
Oh,
are,
the
that are
secondary
prepared
sanctions. The big one on India.
Yes,
Well,
but
secondary
I'm talking about
sanctions.
on Russia.
Yeah, but this immediately impacts Russia, because that means that Delhi is now on the phone with Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin in Moscow, and Narendra Modi asking me, hey, I support you, but again, could you explain to me the strategy? Because I have now been hit by these 50% tariffs by the United States. So President Trump is implementing what he says. But of course, we are not happy that so far we have not been able collectively to end the war. And he is working on that.
And what do you make, because he talked about NATO nations, I think, he said, I'll put those on, but you also have to stop buying Russian energy. So there's Turkey, Hungary,
Yes.
Slovakia.
Yeah.
What are you telling those nations?
But there are two issues. One is that a couple of these nations still buy Russian oil,
Yeah.
and I agree with President Trump, this should stop. And I know that the European Commission President is working on this. I know that President Trump personally is working on this, including directly with Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary. Then the second issue is that Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, is very proactively engaging with Scott Bessent, with the White House, on seeing what can we do, for example, with China, to make sure that we put more pressure on China, also through sanctions, whatever we can do collectively.
Yep.
Not easy, but we can get there.
Can you tell me, you mentioned Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Yesterday here on this space, she told me that shooting down Russian jets that come into NATO airspace and don't heed warnings to leave is now on the table. President Trump in public said that he would agree with NATO shooting down Russian jets and flying objects that enter NATO space. That matches NATO's original mantra, which was not 1 inch. We will defend every inch and every centimeter of our territory and our airspace. Where do you stand on that?
Well, this is what we are doing over 50 years now.
No, but now.
Yeah, but
It hasn't
now
happened
is
yet.
not different from 50 years ago. So when the Soviet Union was there and with the Russians, if there are airspace incursions, ultimately you can take the toughest decision if necessary, if your people are threatened.
Yes.
If not, you will escort these planes out of
Yes,
your...
and if they
of
don't,
your...
because they haven't
Then there
heeded
is
warnings.
our
And you heard
military...
the polls.
Yeah, but this is not new. Our military commanders, our fighter jets pilots, they can do what is necessary to keep our people safe. If there is no direct threat, they will escort these planes out of Allied airspace. If there is a direct threat, they might ultimately do the ultimate thing.
Which is shoot them down.
Yeah, if necessary. But
You remember Turkey did that. You may have been Prime Minister 10 years ago. Turkey did that when a Soviet bomber came into its airspace, only for 17 seconds, but hadn't responded to the warnings not to enter. And they shot it down, and World War III didn't happen. Do you think that Putin needs one of these lessons?
what Putin needs is a calm and collected reaction by NATO. It's exactly what we do. We have the best military in the world. We are the strongest military alliance in world history. And what happened with the drone incursions, the Dutch F-35s taking them down, with the incursion in Estonia last Friday.
12 minutes.
12 minutes. The Swedish, the Finnish and the Italian allies escorting these planes out of Estonian airspace. This is exactly what we need to do. And then they assess. And if in that assessment they would come to the conclusion that these planes are a direct threat, they can move up in the escalation ladder. But this is not new.
Yeah,
And my
I
advice here is
understand.
let's leave this with the military. They are trained and prepared for this. Our Supreme Allied Commander
Yeah,
in Europe
except we're
has
hearing
all
from the leaders of these countries, like the Polish Prime Minister, the Polish Foreign Minister. But here's
Yeah,
the
what
thing.
they are saying is right, that if necessary, of course, our military people can do what is necessary.
So how do you assess then, especially after Trump's statement on this, the top U.S. general, the SACEUR
Yes,
of
Alexis
NATO,
Krinkovich, he's the Supreme Allied Commander.
Exactly. He said, fine, hitting a drone, getting it out, fine, but a manned aircraft could trigger, quote, a higher risk of escalation if someone gets killed on either side. So, again, you know, Turkey did it. There was no higher escalation. World War III didn't break out. With this kind of open division between
There is no open
NATO...
division. I saw this at CNN yesterday, but I disagree with the CNN analysis yesterday. There is no open division.
So-
because in NATO, we all agree that it's our military doing this. They are the best we have. What they did in Estonia is exactly what they trained and prepared to do, which is to engage these aircrafts, make contact, and if necessary, they can move up and do the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
But it is not that when an aircraft enters your airspace, you immediately always take the ultimate decision, because you will always assess the threat at that moment. And this is exactly what happened in Estonia. It has happened so many times before. Under the Soviet days it happened. And the Americans, the Canadians, the European allies, we all have trained and prepared for this. So there is no division on this. And so I agree with what Tusk has been saying, what the president said, what the Polish foreign minister said. Ultimately, yes, of course. Our military have the authority to do what is necessary.
What is your assessment of what happened, incursion into Danish airspace? We're still waiting for an answer. What is it?
It looks very serious. I was on the phone this morning with the Danish Prime Minister. NATO and the Danish military are also now in close contact. She is also reaching out to individual allies. But still, it is unclear at this moment what is behind this. Who is behind it? What is behind it? What was the intention? Still not known. So we are all assessing that.
Does that worry you?
Of course, I'm worried. On the other hand, I know that we have the best people in place. So my worries are always very short-lived.
Thank you, Secretary General.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.